Microsoft Images are WIM file, or WIM. Stands for Windows Image. So whenever you look at a Microsoft image file, it'll always have a .wim file extension. If I want to deploy a client operating system, I need two files. I need a boot image file, and I need the image file that I actually intend to install, so the image of the operating system. If I go to my boot images here, so this folder exists automatically on every WDS server. If I right-click WDS, there is an option to add a boot image. Well, I'm going to click that Add Boot Image. This is an extremely useful screen. Under File Location, it gives me this note that says the default boot and install images, boot.wim and install.wim, are located on the installation DVD in the Sources folder. If I leave this screen here for a moment, I'm going to navigate to my DVD drive. This is the folder structure on a DVD drive. If I go to this Sources folder, and I'm going to open that, I'm going to go down to the B section, and notice there is a file here named boot.wim. That file is 257 megabytes. The boot.wim file is the boot image. So technically, when you install the Server 2016 operating system, or a Windows 10 operating system for that matter, it's the same process. When you boot from the DVD to install the operating system on your own machine, you are actually loading this boot.wim file. So when you go through the install, as we did in one of the earlier sections, I showed you how you could choose to install the Server Core operating system. You could install the Desktop Experience operating system. The screen you booted into that gave you all those options, which OS to install, you accept the license agreement, you click Install Windows, all those screens we were going through were in this boot.wim image file that we actually booted into when I booted from the disk. So that is always on every Microsoft disk or ISO file. If I drop to the I section, there's also a file named install.wim. That file is 4.07 gigabytes in size, so a pretty large file. That file contains the full Windows 2016 server operating system. So with this, when you get a Windows disk or an ISO file, there is actually two images already on it. Those images that are on the disk when you get the disk are the same exact images I can deploy through WDS. So if I go back to WDS, just minimize the screen here, we are in the boot images folder and I'm attempting to add a boot image. Well, again, this note says the default boot and install images, boot.wim, install.wim, they're located on the DVD. What that means to me, I never have a need to go create a custom boot image. I simply click Browse, select the DVD, the Sources folder we were just in, and there is my boot.wim. I'm going to click Open for that. Next, on the image metadata, we don't ever change any of that stuff. I'm going to click Next. Next on the summary page, and it copies the boot.wim from the disk to my server. So now I have the ability to PXE boot a client machine, and it will connect directly up to my WDS server. Now that file was less than 300 meg, so it actually copies over pretty fast. I'm going to click Finish, and that is done, the boot image. The install image that I can deploy, if I right-click the install images and select Add Install Image, it tells me it's going to create an image group. An image group is a way for you to organize different types of images you have on your WDS server. So if I deploy Windows 10, Windows 7, Server 2016, it would just make sense to have a group named Windows 10 that contains all the Windows 10 images. What I'm going to do here is create a group, and I'm going to name it Server 2016 OS for Operating System. I'm going to choose Next, and I get the same screen we saw with the boot image. This says the default images are in that Sources folder on the disk. I'm going to click Browse, and I'm going to choose that install.wim file, That contains the actual server operating system. When I choose Next for that, it asks me which of the 4 OSs do I want to install. Now, those are the ones we talked about earlier in this course. I have Server 2016 Standard Core Operating System. Then we have the 2016 Desktop Experience. Although that's not in the list, the Desktop Experience is the server with the GUI. Then I have the Data Center Core Data Center Desktop Experience. Well, here I'm just going to choose all 4 of these. So I'm going to leave them all selected here. Next. Now that's going to copy across all 4 of those images. Now those images are just over 4 gigs in size, so it does take a moment for those to copy over. In a minimalist way, this is all I need to deploy operating systems to a WDS server. Now, some environments will actually want a custom image. They want to create applications that they have in the image and deploy an image with a bunch of pre-configured settings. So WDS does also support custom images. But for the initial deployment of WDS itself, something you may do in a small to medium environment, all you have to do is what we just did there, and now you can fully automate the deployment of your images. That is almost finished copying. So I will click Finish for that. Now on my WDS server, I have the 4 Server 2016 images. I also have the boot image. So I have a fully functioning WDS server that I can now deploy images from.